Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. She said it like she'd rehearsed it. Stop touching me. You always want something. The words didn't just land. They split the air between us. I remember freezing in the kitchen, my hand still half raised toward her shoulder. There was a Target candle flickering on the counter, the kind she bought in bulk because lavender keeps energy clean. She was barefoot, wearing that soft beige sweater she always wore after her online sessions. The same sessions that had started to pull her away from me, inch by inch. I didn't say anything at first, just looked at her. Then the only words that came out were quiet, almost detached. You used to beg for my hands. She didn't flinch. She just turned back to her phone, scrolling through some emotional freedom forum on Facebook, like I wasn't even in the room. That was the moment something shifted, not in her, in me. It was the first time I realized I couldn't reason my way back into her world. For months, she'd been living by a new language. Words like boundaries, alignment, and vibrations. Words that used to mean nothing to us now replaced everything real. She'd stop me mid-sentence, saying she was protecting her peace. I used to be her peace. Now I was her trigger. Her new mentor, a self-proclaimed spiritual coach named Liam, ran a series of energy release live streams. He spoke about detaching from toxic partners in a calm, hypnotic tone. I watched one of his clips once, just to understand. He was sitting in front of a ring light, sipping from a Starbucks cup, talking about becoming sovereign. Thousands of women were flooding the chat with hearts and "you saved me" comments. She was one of them. I wanted to hate him. But what was there to hate? He hadn't touched her. He'd done worse. He'd rewritten her perception of intimacy. I'm a lawyer. My world is built on evidence, precedent, clarity. But how do you argue with belief? How do you cross-examine faith? I used to think truth lived in facts. Then she taught me that belief could erase facts altogether. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked me to, but because the space beside her wasn't mine anymore. She fell asleep to a meditation playlist, her iPhone glowing beside her face. I lay there in the dark, hearing her slow, even breaths, and I felt like a ghost in my own house. By morning, I'd already decided something. I wouldn't plead my case anymore. I wouldn't fight for attention in a court that no longer existed. I'd stop reaching, stop explaining, stop touching, let her have her freedom. I'd start building mine. When she woke up, I was gone. The car was already on the highway, the city lights fading behind me. She'd call later, maybe, or maybe she wouldn't. But either way, something in me had gone silent, and I knew it wasn't coming back. When she started her new healing program, I thought it was harmless. A phase. Something she'd outgrow once real life demanded her again. But real life had become the enemy. I'd come home from court, briefcase in hand, and find her sitting cross-legged in the living room, eyes closed, incense burning. The same house that once smelled like dinner now smelled like sandalwood and detachment. She began every morning with her headphones on, listening to Liam's voice. He'd whisper about shedding layers of dependency, and she'd repeat his phrases like prayers. I'd watch her mouth form the words, soft and distant, while she stared out the window. Her coffee sat untouched beside her MacBook. I tried to talk once. Asked if she wanted to grab dinner at Applebee's, like we used to when life felt simpler. She smiled politely and said she wasn't aligned with heavy food right now. That phrase, aligned, started haunting me. It meant no to everything that once connected us. No to conversation, no to touch, no to warmth. Soon, even her laughter changed. It wasn't spontaneous anymore. It was filtered through thought, like she was auditioning for calm. She said her mentor was helping her find the truth beneath the noise. But the only truth I saw was that she was slowly deleting me. Not cruelly, not intentionally, just as a side effect of enlightenment. The final straw wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. One night, I found her in the backyard under the string lights, recording herself on her phone. She was talking about reclaiming her sacred autonomy, telling her followers how she'd learned to let go of the need for external validation. I stood there for a full minute before she noticed me. She smiled faintly and said, "I'm glad you're here, but I'm in the middle of something important." That was the moment I understood. I wasn't in her life anymore. I was just in her background. After that night, I stopped waiting for her to look up. I left earlier for work, returned later. My schedule shifted intentionally. She called it distance. I called it self-preservation. I spent long hours driving, thinking, letting silence do what words couldn't. The truck became my refuge. The car radio filled the space she used to fill with noise about vibrations and energy fields. At first, she didn't notice. Then, she did. I could see it in her messages, shorter, more hesitant. "You've been quiet lately." I didn't reply. I wanted her to feel what she'd been preaching, detachment. The difference was, mine wasn't spiritual. It was real. Proof doesn't always come in photographs or text messages. Sometimes, it comes in silence. In the slow, deliberate fading of a person who once looked at you like you were their home. I started to notice the little shifts, the things she didn't say, the moments she filled with quotes instead of feelings. Every time I asked how her day was, she'd answer with something Liam had said in his live sessions. "Pain isn't something to fix," she'd whisper. "It's something to observe." It wasn't cheating, not in the way people define it. But it was worse, because she gave him the parts of herself that used to belong to me. Her thoughts, her gratitude, her trust. I found her journal once, left open on the table beside a half-empty Starbucks cup. The page was filled with affirmations, written in her careful, looping handwriting. "Today I release my attachment to outcomes. Today I honor my inner truth." And then, at the bottom, one sentence that made my stomach tighten. "I'm learning to exist without needing him." I closed the notebook and set it back exactly where it was. I didn't need to read more. That one line said everything. She wasn't angry. She wasn't leaving. She was erasing me politely. From that night on, I began to change my rhythm completely. I started running before sunrise, when the world was still quiet. I'd stop by the Walmart parking lot on my way to the office just to sit and breathe, to feel grounded in something real, something ordinary. The smell of asphalt and coffee felt more honest than anything waiting for me at home. At work, I buried myself in cases. Facts made sense. Evidence stayed loyal. When I returned at night, she'd already be in the guest room, meditating. Her laptop glowed with Liam's face, his voice wrapping around her like a sermon. She didn't hear me come in anymore. I didn't try to be heard. There's a moment when you stop reacting, not because you don't care, but because the fight has turned into observation. That's when I realized I was no longer losing her. I was studying her departure. I stopped texting her during the day. I stopped reminding her of dinner, of plans, of us. I didn't delete her, but I began to remove my presence in quiet, strategic ways. One drawer at a time, one habit at a time. And in that growing silence, something powerful began to form. The shape of a man she could no longer reach. The first time she noticed my absence, it wasn't physical. It was energetic, the same word she loved to use. She asked why I'd been so quiet, why my mornings started before hers now. I just said I had early meetings. It wasn't a lie. The meeting was with myself. I'd wake before dawn, shower in silence, and leave the house while she was still wrapped in her rituals. By the time she poured her almond milk into her coffee, I was already halfway down the highway, the car humming beneath me, carrying me somewhere that wasn't her orbit. I stopped waiting for her to wake up, stopped asking if she wanted dinner, stopped checking whether she'd eaten at all. The absence became a rhythm. Every day, I removed a small part of myself from her reach, a sweatshirt from the closet, a watch from the nightstand, files from the desk. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet extraction. She didn't notice at first. She thought it was my shift in vibration. She even said she was proud of me for embracing detachment. She had no idea how right she was. The house grew colder, not in temperature, but in tone. Her music played longer, louder, like she was trying to fill the space between us. She started talking more to her online group, laughing in ways she never did with me anymore. But even through the noise, I could feel the unease forming. Every time she looked at me, her calm cracked for half a second. It was the look of someone realizing their control was slipping. One evening, I came home later than usual. She was sitting on the couch, surrounded by candles. The TV paused on a Netflix documentary about healing trauma through stillness. She said she wanted to talk. I listened as she explained that she was processing the energy between us, that maybe we'd outgrown our shared frequency. She sounded like a stranger reading from a script written by someone else. I nodded, said nothing. That silence landed harder than any argument could. She searched my face for emotion. There was none left to show. That scared her more than anger ever did. When I went upstairs, I didn't close the door. I wanted her to see the space I was leaving behind, the quiet, the emptiness, the man who no longer needed to be seen. That night, for the first time, she didn't start her meditation. She just sat there in the dark, the candles burning low, staring at the place where I used to sit beside her. And for a brief, still moment, I could feel it. She was the one reaching now. The day she realized she'd lost control wasn't loud. It was a Sunday morning, the kind that used to smell like pancakes and laughter. Now it smelled like sage and detachment. I walked downstairs, grabbed my keys, and told her I'd be out for a while. She asked where I was going, her voice sharper than usual. I said, just clearing my head. That was all. No argument, no emotion. I left her standing there, holding a mug of coffee she'd probably never drink. I drove without destination, letting the miles build a wall between us. The car became my quiet witness, my confession booth. I stopped at a gas station on the edge of town, bought black coffee, and just sat there. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Not the kind she talked about in her online sessions. Real peace. The kind that comes when you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who's forgotten its value. While I sat there, her phone notifications must have been lighting up. She was mid-session with her followers, broadcasting her usual monologue about detaching from toxic dynamics. I didn't have to imagine it. I'd heard enough of them before. Her mentor's voice echoed in her head more than mine ever would again. But for all her talk of letting go, she was addicted to being heard, to being validated by strangers. That afternoon, I went back home, but something was different. She followed me from room to room, asking if something was wrong. Her tone wasn't calm anymore. It was searching, restless. The calm had cracks now. I told her everything was fine, and that's what scared her most, because it was true. I started spending more time in the garage, keeping to myself. She tried to reach me through guilt, through curiosity, through silence. Nothing worked. Each time she spoke, her words bounced off something invisible, a new kind of boundary, one she didn't create. One evening, I came back to find her sitting at the table with her laptop open, tears in her eyes. She said her mentor's account had been banned. Mass reporting, she called it. Some of his clients had started questioning his credentials, his methods. I didn't react, just nodded and went upstairs. That's when I knew the universe didn't need my revenge. It was already balancing itself. She had built her faith on someone else's illusion. And now, that illusion was cracking. Right when she realized the only real thing she'd ever had was slipping quietly out of her reach. When his downfall started, she pretended not to notice. But I did. I saw the shift in her eyes, the quiet panic of someone watching their faith collapse. Her mentor, the man who taught her to detach, had been exposed by his own followers. Screenshots, contradictions, financial lies. The same people who once called him healer were now calling him fraud. The online world turned on him overnight, and with every deleted post, her conviction started to fade. She tried to act indifferent, said he was just a vessel for a message, not the message itself. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. I didn't gloat. I didn't say a word. I just poured my coffee, checked my emails, and left for work. The silence between us had turned from peaceful to unbearable. For her, not for me. That week, I started getting messages from mutual friends. One of them, her colleague from the therapy center, asked if I was okay. Apparently, my wife had been venting to people about emotional distance. She'd turned our quiet into her narrative, painting herself as the one abandoned. I didn't correct it. Truth doesn't need witnesses. On Thursday night, she hosted a small dinner for her coworkers, an attempt to prove she was fine. I stayed upstairs, working. From above, I could hear their voices, laughter that sounded too rehearsed. Then someone asked, loud enough for me to catch it, "So, how's Liam? The energy coach?" There was a pause, then nervous giggles. "He's taking time to reflect," she said. But the laughter didn't stop this time. That was the social fracture, the moment people stopped buying her story. She smiled through it, pretending not to care, but I could feel the tension radiating through the walls. She wanted to control the narrative, and for the first time, she couldn't. Later that night, after everyone left, she came upstairs. She didn't say anything at first, just stood in the doorway, looking at me like she was waiting for a lifeline. Then she whispered that people were being unkind. I didn't respond. I simply looked at her, calm, steady, unreadable. That silence broke her composure faster than anger ever could. As she turned away, I realized something. I didn't need to disappear anymore. I already had. She was the one now fading into the noise, trying to find meaning in a world that had quietly stopped listening. The days that followed felt like winter, even though it was spring outside. She moved through the house like someone afraid of being seen. The incense stopped. The candles went out. Her playlist grew quiet. There was no more talk of vibrations or healing circles. Just long, heavy silences that used to belong to me. I noticed the change without reacting. She started making breakfast again, small gestures of routine she once called low vibration. I'd find a cup of coffee waiting for me on the counter when I came downstairs, untouched because I'd already had mine. It wasn't about caffeine. It was about her trying to anchor herself to something real again. She'd linger in the doorway when I worked late, as if trying to start a conversation but forgetting how. Sometimes she'd sit across the room pretending to scroll through her phone, but the screen never moved. The silence between us had turned from distance to gravity. It pulled her closer, even when she didn't understand why. I wasn't cruel. I didn't punish or ignore her. I just stayed consistent, calm, predictable. The steadiness she used to call boring had become the only stable thing left in her collapsing world. When she looked at me now, her eyes didn't carry judgment. They carried recognition of what she'd traded for the illusion of freedom. One evening, she asked if we could talk. I said yes, but my voice didn't carry warmth. She started explaining how she'd lost herself in that online movement, how she thought she was healing but was really hiding. She said she missed the version of me who tried, the one who reached for her even when she pulled away. I listened, but I didn't move. That was the difference now. I didn't rush to rescue. I let her sit in her own reflection. For the first time, she looked small inside her own words. Not broken, just real. When she went upstairs, I stayed a while longer, sitting in that same quiet she once accused me of using as control. Now it was clarity, peace. I realized I didn't hate her. I didn't even resent her. I was just done trying to be understood by someone who had to lose me to remember what being seen feels like. That night, I slept soundly, and I think she finally didn't. She started showing up in places she never used to. When I came home late, she'd be sitting on the porch, waiting. No meditation, no phone, just silence. Once, she asked if I wanted to go for dinner, said she missed normal things. I told her I'd already eaten. It wasn't a lie. I'd stopped waiting for her long ago. That week, she tried harder. Cleaned the house, played old playlists, cooked meals we hadn't shared in months. There was a strange urgency in it, like she was trying to rewind time by force. She talked about taking a break from work, reconnecting with reality. I nodded but didn't engage. I'd learned that not every apology needs an audience. One night, she finally said what she'd been avoiding. She admitted she'd been lost, that the mentor, the courses, all of it, was just another way to feel wanted. She said he made her believe she was evolving, when really, she was just escaping. Her voice broke when she said she didn't know how to fix what she'd broken. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her and realized she wasn't searching for forgiveness. She was searching for the man who used to hold her together. But he wasn't here anymore. She'd buried him under all her healing. And now, all she could see was what her enlightenment had cost. When she reached for my hand, I didn't move. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. For months, she'd spoken of energy, distance, boundaries. And now she finally understood what it felt like when someone drew them for real. She whispered that she missed who I was. I said nothing. I wanted her to sit with that silence, to feel the weight of the space she'd created. It was heavier than any argument. Later that night, I stood outside, looking at the dark windows of the house. For the first time, it didn't feel like mine. It was just a structure full of echoes. Her voice, my restraint, the ghost of what we used to be. I'd already started transferring accounts, signing documents, moving things to storage. Every step was deliberate, invisible, final. She wanted to heal through detachment. So I gave her the purest version of it. Not emotional withdrawal, not anger, just absence. The kind that can't be undone. The kind that teaches. The house grew quieter as the end approached. I stopped hearing her meditation tracks, her voice notes to friends, her recorded affirmations. The silence that once felt heavy now felt clean, almost merciful. She tried not to show it, but I could see it in her eyes, the disbelief that I hadn't come back, not even when she finally broke her own walls. She began to unravel slowly. Little things gave her away. The way she'd stand in front of my closet, staring at the space where my suits used to hang. The way her phone stayed face down now, like she didn't want to see who wasn't messaging her anymore. Even her coffee tasted different, less sweet, more real. One night, I came home and found her sitting at the kitchen table, her iPhone glowing beside her. The screen displayed a message from me, an automated legal notice. Division of assets. Electronic signature confirmed. She hadn't seen it yet. The notification had just appeared. When she looked up and saw me in the doorway, something in her face collapsed, not out of shock, but understanding. She whispered, "You really did it." I said nothing. I didn't need to. She stared down at the screen, at her own reflection in the glass. The same phone she'd used to record lessons about letting go now delivered the lesson itself. She'd preached release. Now she was living it. For days after that, she barely spoke. She went through the motions, work, calls, cooking, but everything was slower, thinner. The house seemed to breathe with her grief. I watched from a distance, detached, but not cruel. This was her moment of awakening, not mine. She started to replay our past without realizing it. I'd catch her glancing at the couch where we used to sit, or the mug she'd bought for me at Starbucks, now chipped on the edge. Every object became a reminder of the man she once called too stable. The same stability she was now drowning without. I didn't move out immediately. I let her live with the echo of me, because sometimes absence needs time to be understood. I wanted her to feel the truth of it. Not punishment, not vengeance. Just the clean, hollow space that's left when someone stops showing up where they aren't respected. And the more she felt it, the more she realized that the quiet she'd once romanticized wasn't freedom. It was loss. The morning I finally left, the sky was colorless. One of those gray, silent dawns where even the birds seemed to hold their breath. I'd packed the last of my things the night before. Not rushed, not emotional. Every movement deliberate, quiet. She was asleep upstairs, or at least pretending to be. The house looked cleaner than usual, as if she'd tried to erase the traces of what had already gone. I placed my keys on the counter next to her favorite candle, the same lavender Target one that burned the night everything began to unravel. The flame had died long ago, but the scent still lingered, faint, ghostly, like something that once mattered. I stood there for a moment, not nostalgic, just aware. It was strange how peace could feel both heavy and light. When I stepped outside, the air bit cold against my face. The car waited quietly in the driveway, engine low, patient. As I started it, I looked back at the house one last time. The curtains in our bedroom moved slightly, like someone watching but not ready to be seen. Maybe she was standing there. Maybe not. Either way, it didn't change anything. She'd said once that love was about energy, about giving and receiving in balance. She wasn't wrong. The balance had just shifted. My energy was no longer in her orbit. It was finally back where it belonged. As the road stretched ahead, I thought about all the words I hadn't said, the arguments I didn't start, the apologies I didn't beg for. None of it mattered now. What remained was the truth I'd carried quietly through every silent evening. That respect, once broken, can't be rebuilt by confession, only by consequence. Hours later, she texted. Just 2 words, "I understand." I didn't reply. She didn't need me to. Understanding isn't always reconciliation, it's recognition. She finally saw what I'd known for months. I hadn't disappeared. I'd simply stopped showing up where I wasn't valued. That night, I checked into a small Airbnb on the edge of town, ordered dinner from a diner I'd never been to, watched nothing in particular on Netflix. And for the first time in years, the silence felt like home. She would tell her story however she needed to. Maybe she'd call it growth, maybe loss. But deep down, she'd know the truth. She'd once begged for my hands. Then she flinched from their touch. Now she missed the man who no longer reached for her at all. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.